Hello, I'm Rabbi David Rosen, the founder and first executive director at Avodah. It's been nearly 30 years since the first house full of 9 Avodah core members moved into a triple-decker row house in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. And since then, 1,000 people have spent a year of their lives in full-time work on poverty issues in American cities where they live in intentional community and explore the connections between their work on the issues and their Jewish lives. We started Avodah because we knew how much of an impact a year of full-time work could have on anti-poverty nonprofits and the communities they serve. We also had a vision of Jewish life and work on poverty issues where they would intersect and reinforce and inform each other in ways that would have a long-lasting imprint on the participants. Avodah chose to specifically work with recent college graduates, not only because they could engage in full-time work for their placement agencies, but also because people at this age are very actively engaged in identity formation, thinking hard about what they want to do, who they want to be, and what kind of communities they want to be part of. It was our dream that people who did a year of service in Avodah would go on to build similar communities of moral imagination and determined action for years after the program was over. Tonight's program is proof that dreams do come true. Aaron, Iris, and Rachel each have powerful stories to tell about their work post-Avodah, and they're just 3 of hundreds and hundreds of Avodah alumni whose decisions about how to achieve a world that we can all be proud of were shaped in significant ways by their Avodah experience. I consider this to be not just a perpetual nachas machine for me, which it definitely is, but also a profound blessing for all the places around the world where Avodah alumni are living and translating their values into action. At a time when so much is exhausting and uncertain in the world, the fact that Avodah has for years been helping young people find a lifelong path to rich community and public service makes me want to say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shekacha lo be'olamo. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who has such things in your world. Almost 30 years ago, we hoped for great things as we started Avodah. I think you'll find listening to tonight's speakers that our hopes have been realized in ways that we could not have imagined. It's now my pleasure to turn the proceeding over to Avodah's CEO, Cheryl Cook.
Thank you so much, David, Rabbi Rosen. That was beautiful. And I love perpetual nachas machine. May Avodah continue to be a perpetual nachas machine for you and for our whole Jewish community. That was wonderful. So as David said, Avodah invests in change makers to create a more just and equitable society and world. And at this moment in our country's history, our most vulnerable in our country, our neighbors, our community members, are losing much of the support they need to live prosperous, safe, and meaningful lives. Getting Jews involved in working for justice in our country has been Avodah's work for more than 27 years, David, 27 years. And starting with our first service corps in 1998, when 9 young Jews took a chance to learn and live together and serve local not-for-profits in Brooklyn, Avodah's transformed into something so much bigger. We now work with emerging and current Jewish leaders across the country of all ages and many, many generations, building up their skills, their community, and supporting them as they take on the biggest challenges of our time. I'm really excited to introduce 3 such leaders tonight, and I will do that in a minute. Avodah alum who are making a huge impact in this exceedingly challenging moment. But first, I want to share a little bit more about our community. So you're going to meet alumni from our Jewish Service Corps and Justice Fellowship programs. They're both young adult programs. Our Jewish Service Corps, David described, and that is what Avodah was really founded on, an AmeriCorps type program for young Jewish adults right after college, where we provide housing, education, and they serve full-time at a not-for-profit. And our Justice Fellowship, which has been around now for 10 years and is a year-long fellowship to build a community of Jews who are involved in justice work, to build professional skills, to explore Jewish thinking on justice, and to build a deeper community. So over the past few months, I've been meeting with our current program participants across the country, and I've been hearing the same message over and over. They're so grateful at this moment to be working on the front lines of issues that matter, supporting vulnerable communities when there's growing need for that support and when there's actually less resources out there. And they're proud to be doing this work as Jews. And across all of our programs, Avodah Alumni are now more than 1,600 strong and range in age from their mid-60s and from their mid-50s to early 20s. We'll be there soon to the mid-60s. I want to tell you just a little bit about our alumni and who they are today based on just some recent survey data. So first, because of Avodah, an increased number of Jews are stepping into and leading social justice initiatives. In fact, 98.6% of alumni have been involved in social justice work in some way since participating in their Avodah program, and 70% of them are involved in social justice work professionally. 46% are involved in direct service, also pretty incredible, supporting our country's most vulnerable populations with organizations providing basic needs like housing, food, legal aid, so much more. And Avodah grows the next generation of leaders. And right now, 1 in 5 alumni are senior leaders in their organizations. And as far as Jewish leadership and identity, 1 in 5 Avodah alum are lay leaders at Jewish organizations, synagogues, etc. And an overwhelming majority, 89% of alumni, feel their Jewish identity strongly influences their pursuit of social justice. And data is just data, but I think data tells a really important story. And you're going to hear much more, bring that story to life tonight. Avodah alumni work in so many fields creating change. And at this moment, when our government is stepping away from caring for the most vulnerable and our social service fields are facing budget cuts, we need creative leaders who can push against this tide. So I'm delighted to introduce you to 3 amazing Avodah alumni who are making an impact in the world right now. Iris Bromberg, Rachel Sumekh, and Erin Lawee. The 3 of them participated in different Avodah programs in different cities at different times, yet they're all living their Jewish values for justice and equity in the work they do professionally, in a time when doing that work is more difficult than ever. So let me start by asking each of you to introduce yourself. I'd love to start with Iris, and then Rachel, and then Erin. And I'd love for you to share what your name, what Avodah program and year you participated in, and what you do now professionally.
Great, thanks for that, Cheryl. Iris Bromberg, she, her, hers. I'm a 2003, 2004 Avodah Justice Fellow in New York. I am the Deputy Associate Director, it's a long title, at the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. We are the state agency that enforces one of the oldest and broadest anti-discrimination laws in the country. And my team affirmatively brings matters on behalf of the director. So what we do is we design and bring enforcement matters aimed at addressing systemic discrimination. And just give one example of what that means. For example, we're currently in litigation against these schools that were trying to forcibly out trans youth and LGBTQ youth to their parents. So that's like an example of some of the work that we do.
Thank you, Iris.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Sumekh. I participated in the Avodah service year in 2012 to 13 in Chicago. I'm currently based in Los Angeles, and currently I work with organizations across the country to help them increase their impact. Specifically, one of the biggest projects I work on is called 10, which stands for Together Ending Need. It's a partnership with the Jewish Funders Network and the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation, focused on the about 29% of our Jewish community that are struggling to make ends meet, to make sure we build a community where everyone not only has their basic needs met, but has the chance to live a meaningful Jewish life regardless of their income. So working on economic justice within the Jewish community.
Thank you. And Aaron?
My name's Aaron Lawee. I did the Avodah Fellowship in New York, 0506. It's still nice to see David Rosen. It's been a very long time, so it's good to see you. I am an immigration attorney in Chicago. I work at a small private firm called Minsky, McCormick and Halligan. And we, as the name immigration attorney suggests, we try to help people either come to this country legally or stay in the country legally. That could be asylum seekers, that could be people here facing deportation, that could be someone who married a US citizen and wants to get a green card. Could be someone who is the victim of a crime or victim of spousal abuse. So we represent people with humanitarian and we call them removal defense or deportation defense cases. And so the ultimate goal of just letting people stay here and live their lives in peace.
Thank you. Thank you all for those beginning introductions. And I think for those of you who are listening, you can hear a little of how Iris and Aaron and Rachel are really working on issues that for sure we are reading about in the press daily, probably should be reading about even more. I would love to hear a little more about your work and how you spend your day, and particularly what some of the challenges you are seeing, what are some of the challenges that you are seeing in your own field right now? Because I think that the world, we've been through the world has changed and changed and changed, and we are at such a moment of disruption right now. I know all of the issues you're all working on are issues that have been long-standing issues. It's not just about this moment, and I'm curious about both what is long-standing in terms of the challenges and what are some of the issues particular to right now. And Rachel, I'd love to start with you and then turn to Iris and then Aaron.
Sure. So I'll start by saying my lens on creating change in the world was formed right after my Avodah year. I started my own nonprofit, or I went full-time with my nonprofit, Swipe Out Hunger, where I grew an organization that was focused on ending college student hunger. It was a secular organization, and we were able to be very successful. Maybe I'll talk more about our work at Swipe Out Hunger when we share about, what got me here. But it made me really hopeful about how change happens. I grew up as a low-income Jew raised in LA. It was programs like SNAP and free school lunch and Medicaid that got my family to achieve the American dream. And so when I think about the world now and the work that I get to do now, fighting for economic justice for families that are the most vulnerable, I do so not just so people can survive. I do so because that's what makes our cities strong and allows people to live lives where they thrive, not just survive. In this moment in time, programs that people really rely on are being threatened. I mean, programs are being cut. I think a lot about Lawee, which is a program that helps fund heating and cooling during extreme temperatures. The program was just, while it's congressionally funded and the administration couldn't cut the funds, they did fire all 25 staff members who oversee the program. So we don't know, states don't know if and when they'll ever get those dollars. And the reality is when funds in Lawee have run out in the past, like in New York, they ran out in January. Kathy Hochul said, don't worry, we'll fund the rest of the bill as January's freezing. So we're going to see blue states continue to step up in this moment in ways that they can. Obviously, the federal gaps will not be able to be covered, but we'll see folks around the country, especially in red states, suffering. So what we need to acknowledge is this is no longer partisan or not. We are doing this work to serve anyone and everyone who's going to be impacted. And my job with the work that I do with 10 is explicitly focused on educating funders. We want funders to know that there are members of our community that are struggling, especially Jews in our community that are struggling. So the cuts are huge. And the other piece is education. A lot of people in our community think that all Jews are rich. We ourselves believe that, when the data shows that it's about 20% who are making over 200K and 20% making less than 50K. We are, a very economically diverse community.
Amazing. Rachel kind of hit on one of the big things, right? I'm in government, of course. And I work on anti-discrimination laws. And so we're at a time that is kind of unique, right? We're having interpretations of law happening on a federal level that may not align with how we're interpreting our state laws in places that are lucky enough to have robust anti-discrimination laws on the state level. That has, of course, created a lot of novel issues and a lot of fear in the communities that we are a part of and that we work with. And so one challenge is, of course, rising to the moment and picking the battles and picking them strategically in order to make sure that people have their basic rights recognized. Another challenge is we're going to have to step up in these spaces too. We're going to have to step up in spaces that historically, for me, I've had matters I've worked with the DOJ on and other states. We're going to have to do more with the resources that we have now. And in order to do that, we have to be creative. We have to resist despair. And we have to work and collaborate with each other and across difference. So one more challenge, of course, is that people already have a natural, healthy distrust of government that is going to be even more heightened now. And so one of the challenges that we face and opportunities is really to step in community as much as possible. I spent this morning at a conference all day because I want people to see my face so that they know that when they're calling to report, some barrier to affordable and safe housing, they know who they're reporting it to and that the person cares. So we're going to have to just be out there as much as possible and create community as much as possible with each other now.
Just to sort of continue along similar lines. So as an immigration attorney, I'm sort of spending time sometimes in court, sometimes meeting with clients. But the first thing I want to say about these ongoing challenges is that I don't think there's ever been a time in our history that immigration was actually a good system that worked in the way that that you'd expect it to work. So I hope that no one is thinking that, oh, we should just go back to the good old days. Like, there were never good old days. Our system has just gotten stricter and stricter and stricter. It is sort of, if you think of criminal law where you're innocent until proven guilty, it's usually the opposite with immigration. You're sort of guilty until proven innocent. There have always been bars to come here, barriers to entry. So it's never been a good system. Even, whether it was Clinton, Biden, Obama, like, they were deporting lots of people. There were people who couldn't get in, who'd never done anything wrong. So that's sort of the baseline that we're starting from. And I think one of my fears is that with these changes that are coming, the needle is moving so much that if we just get back to that place, people will consider it this huge victory when already the standard is way too low. So some of the things that we're seeing now, I mean, you've probably all heard about the people who are being detained in Louisiana, who are being moved around, who've been sent to a prison in El Salvador. Like, this is unprecedented. This has never happened like that before. The government is coming as close to just ignoring the Supreme Court, ignoring the law as possible. I mean, they've been ordered to do many things that they're just fighting and not doing. So I think one of the challenges that I never expected was I can no longer tell my clients that the government will follow the law. And so that is a terrifying thing. I had a client today who thankfully her citizenship application was going to be approved, but we also had a phone call last night about what would happen if she gets kidnapped by ICE and sent to Louisiana, where, she's a green card holder. She's never done anything wrong, but simply because she's in a same-sex marriage, she is just terrified that, she'll be sent to some prison somewhere. And I couldn't tell her that won't happen. And so I never expected to spend so much time with clients trying to reassure them that probably they'll be okay, but there's just never a way to, right now the government is not appearing to follow the law. And so anything that could go wrong, even if there's a 0.1% chance, like that is now very feasible. And so clients are terrified. Everything is harder. You're more likely to have to sue the government to get what you want. We're just dealing with a system that was already bad, and now anything good about it can no longer be relied on. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin and Iris and Rachel. Erin, I'm going to stay with you for a second because my next question is really about the Service Corps, and I'm going to ask you. And then Rachel, how did your time in Avodah Service Corps impact the work that you're doing, impact you working in immigration, Erin?
I mean, I don't think I'd be doing this work if it weren't for Avodah. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about Avodah being a life-changing year, and it so was for me. I really came to Avodah more because it was a Jewish program than because of my interest in social justice. That wasn't really a big part of my life. And so as I was finishing college, I didn't have a sense of like, oh, I care about this particular field, I want to do it. I was just looking for jobs that I thought I might enjoy, but not out of a sense of let's make the world better, let's help other people. And so I'm so grateful that I didn't get those other jobs that I applied to and that I wound up getting to do Avodah, because it gave me so many things that helped me, want to have a job that gave me purpose. It gave me exposure to so many amazing people who cared about changing the world, who, wanted to fight to make the world a better place. And it's almost embarrassing to say that hadn't been where I was expecting to go. And so, one of the amazing things about Avodah was that, living in a communal space with 9 other people, I got to learn so much from all of them. I got to see their jobs. With Avodah, we get to do site visits to everyone else's jobs. And so you don't have a year where you just get to see what you do, but you get to learn what 15, 18 other people are doing, and you get to see how it all fits together. And so one of the things I really carry with me is this sort of holistic or systemic way to view things, where everything is interconnected. It's not just what you are working on, it's how everything all fits together. And so it really helped me feel like it's not just the individual case, which is so important, but like how the world is broken as a whole, and how, I guess I'm landing on Tikkun Olam, but like the world is just broken in so many ways that fit together, and that just wasn't something I was thinking about before Avodah. And so I've had this 15-year career as a lawyer that just would never have been on my radar if not for Avodah.
I feel like my answer is a little bit more like selfish in some ways. Like I feel like my experience in Avodah, one, taught me a lot about myself. Like I went from like my very Iranian Jewish like tribe to suddenly a brand new city with a lot of different people, and gave me the chance to figure out who I was, being formed now by 15 very unique folks. So I walked away with a really strong sense, a much stronger sense of self and self-identity. And, I was a case manager at Inspiration Corporation, which is one of the coolest places to have been placed in Chicago. And I was, directly interfacing with folks. And so were my roommates. And it's still a faceless apartment, which I love to hear. And after hours, I was working on the nonprofit I started, Swipe Out Hunger, where I was working with students who doing systems level change. And my roommates loved being one-on-one. Many of those roommates went off to become case managers and social workers, getting their MSWs. And I was like, okay, the only way you do justice doesn't have to be one-to-one on the ground. I can do justice at a systems level. And if I didn't have the chance to really cross-compare, to Erin's point, with other people doing other things, realizing there's many ways to create change, think I would have spent many more years trying to figure out how to make, one type of role work. I also think the Avodah experience, and I'm again, to bring back the federal piece, like AmeriCorps is now being threatened very seriously. And the thought that so many young people won't get the chance to have a year of service. I always joke, like, if I ever run for office, like, I'll be able to say, yes, I was on the ground in an AmeriCorps role, because it's so respected and such a symbol of, like, I care about my community. So I mean, for me, that year was so formative, like one of the most formative professional years I've ever had, and was a really important asset that set me off my way to run Swipe Out Hunger nationally.
Thank you, Rachel.
If you don't
Go
mind,
ahead, Erin. Yeah.
I remembered that there was something that I'd wanted to add, and I apologize. I was
Please.
having internet issues and was so scattered when I started this, so my apologies. But I think I feel like I have a story that sort of is very illustrates the impact Avodah had for me, which is that, I have this strong memory of just sitting down in the kitchen, and one of my housemates just sat next to me and sort of said, "What are you thinking? What are you going to do next year?" And I was like, "Oh, taking the LSAT's, going to probably go to law school." And I remember him, we haven't been in touch in probably 15 years, but he drew this big circle and said, "This is the world." And then he drew this like tiny little sliver and said, "This is what you've seen of the world." And he was like, "Don't just go to law, like do something." And suddenly, after Avodah, I was backpacking in South America for 6 months, actually partly with two other Avodanics from DC, but that was never going to be on my, like, that was not something I ever would have considered doing. And, because of that, I learned Spanish and got to be an immigration lawyer who can work in this community. But I just felt like that was an example of being around people who just put me out of my comfort zone in so many ways that I'm so grateful for.
And before you go, I also have like so many quotes, like moments like that, where a roommate, like my friend Eli Ellie wrote a note saying, anyway, so many moments like that. But I also want you to talk about, maybe you met someone really important through Avodah.
I was also going to say that, but the reason is that this doesn't happen to everyone. We can't promise this, but I also am married to someone who did Avodah. We met at the alumni retreat in 2009. We both got to be at Obama's inauguration, which was great. But yeah, we not only did we both do Avodah, but we shared a housemate at different times. She was Sarah's housemate in Avodah, and then the next year she was my housemate in Moishe House. So a very incestuous Jewish world. But yes, nothing about my life. I wouldn't be in Chicago. I wouldn't have these children. I wouldn't be married to Sarah. None of that would have happened without Avodah. So everyone should do Avodah so they can meet their future spouse.
Rachel, thank you for prompting Erin on that. And Erin, thank you for sharing that own personal story. And while we can't promise that, it does happen more than just you and Sarah many, many times. I also, Rachel, really just want to say, you just talked about AmeriCorps, and it's very much on my mind right now. It's so new, trying to understand what's actually happening. But it does look like a lot of cuts have already started and more is coming. And we're obviously very, very sad. And we've been in touch with some of our peers and other faith-based service corps too, because the Jewish Service Corps is really modeled on the Lutheran Service Corps. We're really proud of that. And so we're thinking about how our field can really step up right now and what that can look like at moments like this for people who want to come into this work, but also for organizations that have relied on AmeriCorps for a long time. So we're going to see what happens, as there's so much uncertainty, and we're going to see what role we can, what it looks like, what role we can all play, and how we can, at least together as a faith-based group that cares about service and service in our country, play a role in speaking up loud and clear. Iris, I'd love to turn to you. And you did the Justice Fellowship in the midst of an already very busy and demanding career, very different kind of program. How did your time in Avodah's fellowship impact the work you continue to do in the civil rights law?
Yeah, thanks for that. So, look, I think first, foundationally, I just came to the program pretty organically. It turns out that a lot of people in my life have done Avodah, including like everybody in my pottery class right now. So shout out to them if they're on here. But you know, I really was craving Jewish space. For me, all of my work is rooted in my Judaism, and it always kind of has been. But what I was lacking outside of like my family of origin and like some friends was like an intentional community around this. So one of the things that happened when I joined, it was like right after October 7th. I do what I do. You know, we're all in the world. And there was, you know, a lot of it was really difficult because I'm the person that handles those matters, right? I'm the person that deals with Islam, whether it is Islamophobia or anti-Semitism cases, like it's me. And other people too, right? You know, and we always have to be delicate and balanced in questioning ourselves. And it was helpful to be in a group of people where there was some foundation around intentionality and communication and respect, and some kind of shared vision. It allowed us to have really difficult, important conversations in a respectful way that I think was like lacking, or I wasn't able at the time to fully do in non-Jewish spaces. And so that was really helpful. And I think that one takeaway, you know, A, is that I'm still in community with a bunch of these people, and that's awesome. And it feels good, right? It's a sell. But also it's a good reminder of like how when you already build the foundations with people, right? How you can hear each other better, and have difficult conversations. You might not agree, but you can hear each other, right? And that is so important to doing anything in the world because we have to do it all together. So that's kind of the takeaway.
Thank you for sharing that story. It's really powerful to hear, and powerful to hear that you participated in Avodah at a time where being part of Jewish community felt so important. I've heard that from many, many people also. So Iris, let me stay with you for a second and just follow up, because you're obviously not new to any of this work. You've been practicing law for a long time. And as you move forward in your career and through, you know, even this moment, I'm curious how you see your role as a leader. We talk about creating Jewish justice leaders. How do you relate to that? And then Erin, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah. I see it's being multi-pronged, right? Number one, my obligation is going to be elevating other people's voices and like sharing whatever spaces, you know, with as many people as possible. And I also think it's like a matter of keeping like your eye on the ball for the long game, right? Like we're not going to save everything. We're going to save some stuff, and we have to be strategic, and we can't deplete ourselves. And so we have to trust that other people have other parts and other roles here, right? Like I'm only going to do the things that I can do. And I know that there's going to be organizers. I know that there's going to be people making amazing art that is going to heal us and make us think deeper about our lives and our meaning and the meaning in it. And I think that leading that way when you have a team is important, because otherwise people are going to be feel like it's their obligation to basically handle it all themselves and burn out, and we can't be experts in every area.
Wise advice for all of us. Thank you. Erin, same question. How do you think about your own leadership right now?
Well, just to kind of jump off what Iris had just said about burning out, I sometimes think, how has it only been not even 3 or barely 3 months, and you know I'm already exhausted. And so I think the thing that I find most valuable and most meaningful is mentorship. And it's weird to think that I'm no longer a new attorney, even though I've been doing this for 15 years. I still feel like I should be. But I really love getting to mentor and teach younger attorneys. By chance, someone reached out to me from an organization in Chicago called Beyond Legal Aid, which does amazing work, and they wanted someone to supervise their immigration portion of it. And so I get to do that every week. That's probably my favorite part of the week. And I reached out to the director and said, hey, there's this great program called Avodah. Maybe they would be a good match for you. And then I learned that they already had fellows. And so what a fun coincidence that I guess coming full circle, getting to mentor people who are now in their Avodah year. But yeah, I think mentorship is the most important thing for me. I feel like I got so much help, whether it was from my Avodah housemates, the people at my Avodah placement, or just other people throughout the years that, really helped, gave me a chance and helped me get here. And so that's what I like to do. I always love to have the chance to meet someone right out of law school or in law school who's excited and doesn't really know how to break into the field, doesn't know where to go. And for me, I find that kind of restorative and motivating. I don't want to ever get too jaded. And so meeting a 22-year-old right out of school who is so excited and has so much more energy than I have at the moment, I find it really meaningful and good for me. So that's kind of where I land.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel inspired like that too every time I sit down with all of you or our Avodah current participants. So I feel that, Erin, very, very much. Rachel, you were a longtime leader in the justice world, and you continue to be a leader in different ways. I'm curious about your own thinking about leadership, and particularly at this moment, how do we support Jewish professionals in justice work? Because you've really shifted into, thinking about that question, both in Jewish and secular organizations.
It's a great question. And if I had to put Jewish social justice leaders, whether they're in Jewish orgs or secular ones right now, into two categories, it would be those that are like experiencing a lot of fear because they've had the chutzpah to say something out loud and are like really speaking their values, and those that are feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and like just like not feeling seen because every day they're seeing a crisis happen and we're all going around like everything's normal. And my advice is like, say, how are you? Like, show up and just ask them about the issue, right? Like, there's so many people in my life that know I work in this, but don't ask me. So like, how's it going? And I would love to like not feel like I've gone crazy and that other people also care about poor people or care about immigrants or care about who's, being wronged by our government with their housing access. So I think that like asking people how they're doing and asking how you can support their work. Is there something I can sign, donation I can make, just things to make them feel seen. And to build on Erin's point, I think we need more leadership pipelines. We need to have people see themselves as leaders, to have enough chutzpah to step up and be visionary, to believe that something is possible. So whatever you can do to have someone, whether they're young or old, whoever's working in the space, really see the leader that they can be. Not everyone gets, an avodah year where they can like develop their leadership and have a title and, all of that. But really encouraging that in our space. And the other thing I'll just say, another technical, tactical strategy is like make Jewish life more affordable for people working in the nonprofit sector, like day school, synagogue membership, you name it. David Rosen is here. Like you can get an interest-free loan to make Jewish life more accessible, like in any city, basically. The Chicago one was literally started by an Avodah alum. So there are ways we can do that. And I think we really need to lift up that narrative that there are resources and we need more.
Thank you for that. And you really just started me on my last question for all of you, which is, right, it's not surprising that for many of us who care about justice and equity in moments like these, it can be really hard to figure out what to do. And Iris, you started this by saying, okay, I'm going to do my part and other people will do their parts. And I understand that. It is, right? It's hard to see a lot. There's kind of an overwhelm, right? One of my mentors, Ruth Messenger, always says, right, like despair is not a strategy. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I think a lot about that. So I want to ask each of you as leaders in the fight for equality and justice in our country and in our communities, from your perspective, what can we be doing right now? What's your advice to all of us listening right now about what we can be doing? And so, Erin, I'm going to start with you, and then I am going to turn to Iris, and then Rachel, I'm going to let you finish up.
Well, I want to sort of start by stealing what Rachel just said about asking how everyone's doing, and meaning it. You know, I feel like sometimes you get the question and it's sort of a polite question that you don't know if they actually want to hear about it. And you know, I think the work we all do can feel isolating from other people who don't understand it. You know, I sometimes find myself like texting with my immigration lawyer friends more than everyone else because they're the only ones who get it. So it's definitely asking how we're doing and meaning it. I would say, I mean, certainly donating for immigration stuff, donating to either immigration nonprofits or, you know, organizations like the ACLU who are doing this amazing litigation to whatever degree possible, hold the government accountable. And just sort of like, don't forget about us. Don't forget about the people we're working with. Immigrants, until they're citizens, can't vote. And I don't think they don't have political capital because by default, their representatives don't really care about them until they become citizens. And so I think immigrants can easily get forgotten about. And especially now, you know, like, let's not forget in 6 months that there are probably still immigrants in El Salvador. You know, we may have moved on to the next crisis, but, you know, there's going to be a new crisis every day, a new norm that's broken. And so, you know, it's easy to forget, you know, in this case, the immigrants who are there. And I guess the last thing is to go back to what I said before. I don't ever want it to just be, let's go back to how it was before Trump. Like, we can do better as a country. And so this is where, you know, when you talk about immigration, don't just talk about it as being some aberration this year from Trump. Like, it's never been good. It's never been the welcoming the stranger value that we have in Judaism, coming out of Passover. It's never been like that in this country. And so we do need some kind of radical systemic change in our immigration system. And so don't forget that in the sort of battle right now where we're just trying to get back to normal from the craziness of Trump. Like, we can do so much better than what has been our normal.
I agree. That's a hard one to follow. I think, you know, there's so many different ways to be an agent of change. And like most fundamentally is to believe that you can be one and put yourself in positions, even if you don't totally trust it, to be one, right? I think that just staying engaged, not all the time, not 24/7, but staying engaged is a really important thing. And, you know, more and more, look, I never thought I'd be in government. I was like, oh, you sue government. I used to work at the ACLU, you sue government. The more that I'm in this position, the more that I see that how important it is to kind of organize, to bring attention to matters, for nonprofits to write reports. Like, all of it is really for media to like talk to media and bring up stories. Like, I use that when I'm pitching matters, right? Mm-hmm. So like, if I have something online or a stakeholder has told me something, even if I know it to be true, right? Like, I'm part of the queer community, I know it to be true, but if somebody else says it and I can raise it up, then I can work on changing it, right? And so just elevating things to people, saying, I see this, this person, all these people are being screened out because of their credit reports for housing opportunities, right? Bringing that to somebody allows them then to take that piece that they're able to take in the space that they're able to access, right, to push the levers of power as best as they can. So that's just one way. And then the other thing I'll say, and then I'll stop because there's like a million ways. You know, with all these school board cases that we have, and I was the person sitting in many of those school board meetings, I was like, wow, local government, like hyper local government, you know, and how important it is, and how being there in that space and being a decision maker in that space, or holding those decision makers accountable, really, really, really impacts people's daily lives immensely. So also big shout out for hyper local government.
Amen. A few things come to mind, and I know this is a very engaged group, and I don't need to, you know, add more, but one of the things that might not be on your radar is remembering that we have Jews of all economic backgrounds in our community, and to find ways through language, through leadership, to make them feel more welcome. Does that mean lifting up that your synagogue has a discretionary fund for anyone that's struggling because of government layoffs or because of inflation, letting them know that there are supports in our community? If you know someone who can't pay rent, tell them to call JFS, and they'll give them a few $100 or $1,000 to make it through. Like, to remind each other that we have resources for navigating this moment right now. And to borrow a phrase I hear often in the immigration justice community, a secure community is an organized one. There's a reason why the Jewish community really thrives, is we're so, some would argue, too organized. A few too many acronyms, but it is a big reason why we get to feel secure as much as that's possible for any minority group. So what that means is encouraging people to not just be focused on themselves, right? Like, not just how much is my 401k impacted right now, but okay, so what's the impact of this moment on my nonprofit, on the society I belong to? Kind of taking that level of concern beyond ourselves so that we stay connected at a time when the narrative is so just, you know, get by, which is true. You should always put your safety mask on first, but to not lose what makes our community so strong and so able to show up for ourselves and other communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Iris, for your wisdom, for your brilliant work, for speaking with all of us today, and for really staying in it. And I heard you each say in different ways, like, there's a lot to do and it's hard. And I want to kind of bring back what Iris started with, which was that it's not for all of us to do, right, the work. We're going to do our piece. I'm misquoting the beautiful Jewish text, but I'm holding the intent, right? It's not for all of it. We don't have to complete the task, but we do have to play our role, and we do have to do it. And you all do it so beautifully and brilliantly. And thank you for that. Your words were really inspiring to me. And I want to actually take this moment to introduce everyone to one of our current Jewish Service Corps members. We've been talking to alumni. Now I get to introduce you to our current Corps member, Eve Chinea. Eve, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You'll fix it for me. Who's part of Washington, D.C. Service Corps this year. So welcome, Eve. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Well enough. Shania.
Okay. Tell me again and I'll do it right.
No, it was good. It was good.
Okay. So welcome. I'd love to hear a little bit about you. You're in the Service Corps this year. Could you share a little bit about you, your Avodah work, and, you know, like, what are you spending the day doing these days as part of Avodah?
Yeah, so my name's Eve. I'm a part of the current Avodah DC cohort. I'm originally from Seattle and love being in nature. And these days I'm placed at CASA. So I spend my days doing direct legal service work, particularly helping people to renew their DACA status, and helping CASA to put on legal clinics, distribute information about folks' rights. It's an all hands on deck moment. But those are my days is primarily spent doing client work and helping people to renew their legal status.
So you started at Avodah in September. It's now April. The world has changed a lot. You're talking about DACA status even. I'm reading in the paper about how, right, there's, no more refugees coming into our country, essentially. So I'm curious about how your work at CASA has changed from when you started. What's that look like? Does your work continue to be the same? Is it different? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it's the same. DACA still exists for the moment, knock on wood. So I'm still talking to clients every week, helping them to renew their DACA. But besides that, our work has become much more tied to organizing in a clear and obvious way, in pretty much every other aspect. For instance, one of the big pieces of our work is educating members of our immigrant community about their rights. And so many more community members are in need of that information right now. So the work has shifted to being train the trainer. So we can rely on organizers to help us distribute that information because we can't talk to everybody. We've also gotten trained to serve as legal observers at CASA, like organizing events that CASA puts on, so that our members can even feel safe speaking out at rallies. And doing the work of organizing, because CASA serves its dual purpose. I work in legal services, but it also is a really active advocacy organization. CASA is also a part of a number of really high profile suits right now, from the administration's attempts to terminate temporary protected status, and attempt to end birthright citizenship, as well as the deportation of Kilmar Brito Garcia that has become so high profile. He and his family are CASA members. So this work has made us incredibly visible, and makes our legal work inextricable from our advocacy work and our activism. And in a lot of ways those suits are activist. But it also means that we have an increased focus on protecting those members who agree to sign on to these multi-party suits. It's organizers who identify folks who are ready to sign on, and then we work really closely with those organizers to make sure that all of those members have gotten specialized advice, so that because they've been putting themselves in a particular kind of danger. So even though the work that we do is legal services, it's become a lot more clearly tied to the project of systemic change.
Thank you. Thank you for talking about that, Eve, and for sharing the work and what it looks like. Tell me just for a minute, a little bit about what's been powerful about your own Avodah community. You're living in a house and a bayit with other core members in Washington, D.C. Tell me a little bit about that this year.
When it comes to the work, I honestly couldn't be living in a better place. It would be really easy to feel isolated in this work and that there are so many people not supporting it and working against us. But in my job, when I go to a CASA rally that I'm serving as legal observer for, I see 3 of my housemates who are there in their capacity at their work, because our organizations are really closely partnered, like with my housemates who work at Jews United for Justice. And on a personal level, I come home and I know that we're all doing such important work and we're all committed and in the fight together. And that makes it possible to step back and do what we need to do to take care of ourselves and each other, and turn off for Shabbat and not talk about our work, and just be in each other's company, cook together, sing together, and do what we need to stay in community, and keep ourselves centered and focused on love, and building ourselves up in this time.
Thank you. There's so much more I want to ask you, and we're really at the end. So I'm just going to say I really, really appreciate that you shared just a taste of what it's like to be an Avodah core member. I'm sure for Rachel and Aaron, who were in this many years ago, it sort of brought that back. And I hope for you, Eve, as you're looking at our alumni who just spoke, you can see a little bit about you and your peers and what might be, and we're excited to see what that is too. I just want to thank everyone for being here this evening, especially Aaron, Iris, Rachel, and Eve. I really appreciate your being here. I appreciate those of you who joined. We're also going to be sending this out to many, many people on video and creating some clips. And I just want to say I come away from all of this inspired. So I have a few asks for everybody. One, if you know someone in the 21 to 26-year-old range, we are right now at the end, but we're still recruiting for our Jewish Service Corps for this upcoming fall. And so please have them, apply. Or if you know someone who's a few years behind in that age range, talk to them about Avodah. The way that most people hear about Avodah is word of mouth, and you are all our ambassadors. So I really appreciate that. And we do still have a few spaces to fill in all of our houses. Most of our spaces are filled, but we do have a few more, and we're really excited to fill those right now. Second, I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank those of you who do support Avodah with funds. There are so many needs right now, and we also have many needs right now to keep this work going. Your gift it really helps us in so many ways as we grow the next generation of Jewish justice leaders and create a thriving community for Avodahniks, especially when they need it most at the beginning of their career. And if you're moved to make a gift tonight, we really appreciate it. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to close out the program and say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you. I feel so grateful to be in a community where we can have these kinds of conversations and where people want to show up. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or others on the Avodah team. Thank you.